to follow the scent trail. If you're a death adder, you don't move forwards very quickly at all. Your forte or skill in life is lying in a horseshoe shape and striking onto your own tail with enormous speed. You will move your head in excess of 300 kilometres an hour during the strike. The end of the tail, if you have a look at that one, it's almost whitish in colour. The scalation is very light, almost feather-like. The snake can then lie in a horseshoe shape under dead sticks and leaves, wiggle the tail in a rather provocative manner, and when an animal investigates the lure, he strikes, and that's it, game over. Now, if you're going to be a death adder and you want to create a little ambush, it's not going to be under a rock shelf, is it? Your intended target can't see the lure and can't descend and land in the strike zone. Nor will it be under a rock shelf. We have the same scenario. So the best place for that ambush, right in the centre of a walking trail. That's what makes a death adder so dangerous. Don't go bushwalking in thongs. Don't wear your ratty old sand shoes, regardless of how comfy they may be. Death adders actually have quite long fangs, and they do not move out of your way when they sense your approach. Most snakes skedaddle when they feel they're coming. Death adder are a bit different. That approaching vibration represents food. They become quite excited. Now, if you have been bitten by a venomous snake, they rush you down to hospital, they take off the bandage. If you've been envenomated or injected with venom, you will require antivenom. And most people never bother wondering where it comes from. They've just got the arm out ready to go. Well, antivenom comes from Melbourne. The Commonwealth Serum Laboratories produce the final product. But they need raw material to make antivenom. And the raw material, ironically, is the venom itself. And our role here at the Reptile Park is to hold sufficient venom in its venom glands to kill a couple of dozen people, no problems whatsoever. Now, this one is also a rather tricky one. He's worked out how to stay in the bag. All right. Now, this is a tiger snake, and I know some of you are thinking, really, is that it? I thought they had stripes. Look, some of them do, some of them don't. There are regional colour variations for the tiger snake. Here on the east coast, we tend to get a sort of sclerophyll camouflage pattern. So browns, greys and blacks, so they can hide on dead sticks and gum leaves very effectively. If you're a tiger snake in South Australia, you tend to be a tan colour, very handy for red desert sand. If you're a tiger snake from Tasmania, being jet black is advantageous. You can lie in the sun and heat yourself up in a very cold environment. Now, we don't actually identify a tiger snake by its colour. We identify it by the shape of the snake's head. Scales from the tip of the tail to the snake's bottom. Not something you should try and do at home. Now, to make antivenom, hundreds of them. Each one is cleaned, fed and watered. And then once a week, each snake is withdrawn from the cage and milked. And that's what we're about to do now. Milk them here because we hold contracts to supply venom. Now, what we're looking for in this milking is around about 2 to 3 droplets of venom. That's it. Now, to get the venom out, the snake needs to bite and inject that venom into the jar. Now, the jar's got some plastic stretched over it, and when the snake bites the plastic, it will assume it's bitten Scott and should inject enough venom to kill him twice over. If we're really lucky. I know that sounds bizarre, but we're hoping the snake is going to try and kill Scotty. Now, we're going to see if we can hear the sound of a bite. So hold your breath. That's it. Righto. Now, that little click sound you heard, that was the sound of the fangs penetrating that seal. Now, if you're out bushwalking and you hear that sound, it means you're going to die. Now, actually, you know what? Back in the 1950s, that was the case. Our mortality rates then were about 10%. Our worst ever year for snakebite death, more than 300 people lost their lives. Now, today in Australia, each year we get about 3,000 bites still, but the number of fatalities has plummeted. On average, we get between 2 and 5 fatalities each year out of about 3,000 bites. Management techniques and, of course, the antivenom product. Now, oddly enough, the statistics for a snakebite are always about humans, aren't they? Well, here's one for you to think about. Each year across Australia, 60,000 dogs are bitten by snakes. The overall each year, about 16,000 dogs across Australia die from snakebite. Now, to make antivenom, we do this hundreds of times, and at the end of the day, we freeze dry all of those little droplets, and we send them down to Melbourne to the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories. There, they begin to inject minute doses of our venom into horses. Every day, you give the horse a slightly larger dose of venom, and every day the horse's immune system responds by increasing the volume of antibodies that are being produced. The antibodies assist the horse to fight off the effects of the venom. They can help us too. We hyper-envenomate that horse over several months, every day more and more venom. Eventually, we can inject that horse with more than 6 times the amount of venom that would have killed it outright on day one. But the horse doesn't die, doesn't even have a headache. This is the point where we draw some blood from the horse. We use a big cart horse, they're nice and docile and they have a lot of blood. We can tap 10 litres from the horse at any one time. We spin the horse like an anti-venom factory. Now the antibodies themselves are then reprocessed in advance to saving their life. Now, the next thing we're going to do is absolutely nerve-wracking for the staff who do it. We're going to go and feed Elvis the crocodile. Now, look, you know, they feed big crocs in zoos right around Australia, right around the world, really. God, I'm not feeding Elvis at the Reptile Park. Well, unfortunately, we don't get